Clips. And remember, citizens, always subscribe. Hit the notification bell as well. And $19.95 plus shipping and handling will keep you out of hell. Alright, boob jibs. Another one of clips. Aye. Oh my god, it's turned Baltic again. Surprise. So, later than normal start to the daily PoliTITS. If you like politics, but sick of the tits, then tune in to the daily PoliTITS for your fix. Something like that. It's a political satire entertainment show for Neds and Chavs alike. We like to laugh too. Stick a wee thumbs up, share it with your friends, family, foes. I went out to try and catch the sun earlier, so a wee bit hour late start this morning. But very simple concept. Go over as many English speaking, English language talk holes, news holes as I can, compare notes and see what they're telling us to think about today, and see if you can get a different flavour from them from having different editorial stances. So, the likes of Reuters, TASS, the BBC's,
Just the Sun, and then
the Sky Newsies, Al Jazeera's, France 24's, when they work. What time are they at? Might still have a wee minute or two. Russia Today's. Stick a wee pause on that. The Press TV's. Depends how many dead bodies I can stomach. The German Wave, the German stuff, funnily enough. A wee bit of Fox News as well. Oh, there was some shit come through from the old Bidens. Hamna. Maybe not. Oh, it's the Illuminati, I tells you. Hamna, shazam, zap. Yep, armadillo, that's exactly what I wanted to see on the news. ABC's of America and the Australia's, a wee bit of stuff for Singapore and China as well. So, a big variety of different English speaking talk holes. Yep, it's all working, I think. In the morning.
Live from London, this is BBC News. The Liberal Democrats prepare to launch their general election manifesto, promising billions of extra investment in the NHS and social care.
Promising gold bars for everybody. The milk, the gold bars are on me.
The hard right parties, but the centre ground leaders insist their support is holding. Shocking.
My God, how do you spin a far right victory? The centre ground is holding. Sounds like NATO's summary of what's happening in Ukraine. Well, it's kind of holding. You know, it doesn't really fill you with confidence. I'm going to have to get some coffee.
France, as President Macron announces a snap parliamentary election after losing to far right in Sunday's poll. Tribute to the much-loved television presenter Michael Mosley after his body is found on a Greek island. Hello, I'm Marianne Mashiri. Welcome to the programme. We'll get the first detailed look at the main political parties' election pledges later when the Liberal Democrats launch their manifesto. Well, key pledges include £9 billion to rescue the health service and social care in England, with a right to see a GP within 7 days. Funding would come from increased taxes on banks, energy and water firms. We'll bring you the manifesto launch live later on BBC News. Meanwhile, Labour will announce its manifesto later in the week. Today, they've said they'll create more than 3,000...
Hold on a second, Hen. Hold on a second, Hen. I just need to, like... I'm trying... Alright, it's this walloper.
Social care in England, with a right to see...
Right, so you need to vote for a party who isn't going to get elected to signal your virtue that you want the NHS to be able to deliver a GP appointment within 7 days. Fuck me. Talk about a mind melt. Talk about pissing into the fucking wind. Here, see this jobby that will not, cannot, and will never win. That's the only jobby that's offering you somewhat of what you may actually even want out of a GP. National insurance, am I the only warped one that the national insurance was meant to be like national insurance? You know, it was meant to be... In fact, I'm going to get a coffee and I'm not even going to upset myself about the same shit, different year. You know, it's just like, it's come on to fuck. When is somebody going to stand up and go, right, what I'm going to do is reform tax. Every form of tax is ring fenced and you know what you're paying and where it's going. And if that department, if people demand that shit does better and more money for that shit, then we up the taxes on that section. You know, like direct taxation. Democratically elected dictator with direct taxation. Your road tax, do you know what that would go to? Do you know what your road tax would go to? I know this. Listen to this for a concept. Fucking mental. It is fucking mental. I can't believe it. Like, I know only a fruitcake would come up with this idea of road tax would go to the roads. I know! Fucking bowl me fucking over. Sideways. Mental. Mental. And then, if we needed more infrastructure, we would up the road tax. And you know where the increase in taxation would go to? I know, I'm absolutely, I need a pocket, I need a straight jacket this morning. It would go into the roads and the infrastructure, which the tax hike would be for. It's fucking mental. Fucking mental. Don't tell any of these politicians this shit, I'll get locked up. Somebody would lock me up if you dare suggest that out in public.
See a GP within 7 days. Funding would come from increased taxes on banks, energy and water firms. We'll bring you the manifesto launch live later on BBC News. Meanwhile, Labour will announce its manifesto later in the week. Today, they've said they'll create more than 3,000 new nurseries in primary schools in England. And meanwhile, the Conservatives, they're promising to recruit an extra 8,000 neighbourhood police officers over the next 3 years. Let's start, though, with that manifesto launch from the Liberal Democrats and this report from our political correspondent, Ian Watson.
Again, I'm definitely going to need the straight jacket today, right? I'm just going to beg a question, right? See all this shit that they're promising that people want sounds great. Why? Let me think. There's a question here. Why didn't they do that in the first place? Were they holding out and punishing the people so they had something to give us when they wanted elected? Or is it just bullshit? Is it empty promises? Is it bumping the gums? God, I'm a cynic. I'm going to go and get my straight jacket on.
Lib Dems have been floating some ideas for reforming the health service for some time, but now the leader, Sir Ed Davey, really wants to make a splash by putting what he calls a rescue package for the NHS at the heart of the party's manifesto. He says the NHS is in crisis in England. he's proposing a multi-billion-pound cash injection over the next 4 years. He says this would give everyone the right to see a GP within 7 days or within 24 hours if urgent, guarantee access to an NHS dentist for everyone needing urgent and emergency care, and improve early access to mental health services. Sir Ed Davey has also been banging the drum for social care, often the junior partner in the health system. His manifesto will devote a whole chapter to it and will include the commitment to free social care for those who need it in their own homes. With both the Conservatives and Labour parties promising more resources for the health service, the Lib Dems have to be distinctive. They, like the other two parties, say they won't need to put up income tax to fund healthcare, but other taxes are available.
We have identified areas where there is money available which has been spent, we believe, in the wrong way. For example, the massive tax cut for banks. £4 billion is available if we reverse that.
The Lib Dems claim they're being more transparent on tax and spending than other parties, and today they'll be setting out their political direction of travel. Ian Watson, BBC News.
Well, the pressure on public services is a key issue and in this election, and in an effort to understand the challenges they're under, we've been exploring some of those key issues within specific sectors from education to social care. Well, this morning we're focusing on criminal justice. Our social affairs correspondent Michael Buchanan has been to Telford, which currently has some of the longest court delays in England.
Oh, yes.
In 2019, Ryan Bailey was charged with possession of an imitation firearm and handling stolen goods. He pleaded not guilty. England's struggling criminal justice system then took over.
So I've had 2 children since I got charged with it in 2019. I've had 2 children since then.
His case was listed for trial on 3 separate occasions. If convicted, he was facing up to 5 years in prison.
I've been prepared, spoke to all my kids just in case I did get sent down or whatever, and yeah, I've been prepared a few times now, and it's just got put back.
Looks like an upstanding fucking citizen.
I failed to turn up for some, and like my co-defendant's solicitor, they failed to turn up. So
Morning,
faceless.
faceless.
The trial witnesses have failed to turn up.
In April, 5 years after he was charged, the case against Ryan was dropped after the witnesses failed to turn up.
Yeah, it's all over now. Yeah.
Is there a relief?
Faceless, it's already like off the scale.
Now.
You've got Trump coming,
Nothing hanging over me.
or happening. You've got
Over
Vag
several days in this
coming,
temporary crown
happening.
court, the multiple problems in England's criminal
You've got all the
justice
fucking
system
shit
became
happening
clear to
over in
me.
the European Union. Wilders
One
getting.
trial stretched
I need
back
to get up to speed
2019,
with that.
So witnesses often say they couldn't remember the details.
Looks like Le Pen
In Telford was
and
officially
her
listed
party.
as part of Shrewsbury Crown Court, leading to people
So
going
again,
to the
there's
wrong
like
town
small
for their
technical
cases.
details
When a
which I'm
prosecuting
not quite up
barrister
to
failed
speed
to
with, but I
appear
will
in one
get there.
case, another barrister agreed to step in, but told the judge, "I literally have no
Oh,
idea."
have
what
they
this
get a
case
far
is
right
about."
dude as well?
Justice
Hungary's
in
fucking
this area
blow
at the
deep.
moment is
You've got
scandalous.
Jim
There is
Dowson
no swift justice at all. I
over
don't
there.
believe there's
Jim
enough
Dowson
judges.
and
I
Nick
don't
Griffin
believe there's enough
over there
courtrooms.
setting
I
up
think
wee
a lot of the
white-only
magistrates' courts were
enclaves to
being
keep the
closed for a
mussies
number
out.
of years.
The mussies
There's
out.
a lot of people leaving the profession. They will not stay. The pressure's too high. And it's cost-cutting, in my opinion.
The only one I
West
listen
Mercia
to actually
area, which
listen to.
covers Telford,
No,
has some of
Jock,
the
come on to
longest
fuck,
court
man. You
delays
must
in
keep
England.
fucking
It
McCoist.
takes
He's
over
fucking.
17
All
months
the
for a
fucking
case to go
Fenians
through the
love
courts,
McCoist, man.
7 months longer than before the pandemic.
Like
Adding to the
he's
problems,
got
the
the
roof on
Celtic
courthouse
fans
in
here as
Hereford
well.
collapsed 4 years ago.
Although I clocked a wee
Cases
thing, I
that
think
should
it
be
was on
tried
one of
here
my
will
Twitters.
have to be heard across
A Rangers
West
man,
Mercia.
obviously. And it
This
was a
charity provides support to
McCoist.
victims of rape and sexual
Walter
assault.
Smith was
They say
alive at the
such
time,
cases
which shows you how
usually
long
take
ago it
between
was, right? It was a
4
wee
and 5
award
years to get to
ceremony or
court,
something, and McCoist
which
up there
leads to
keen
some
on the part.
survivors dropping the
And then at the
charges.
end of
It's
it,
not just the mental preparation, it's also
he was talking about all the Rangers
childcare,
players'
taking
end of
time
an
off
era,
work,
crying at the dressing room and all
transport, all
that
these
shit,
other
and he was like,
things.
but well,
And
there's
then,
one thing that will remain
you know,
true,
to go
Rangers
through
will
that
always
once
be
and then
successful
literally at the last
because
minute, you
we
get
are the
told,
people.
"No, it's not going to happen, it's gonna be
And
for
walked
another
off
year or
stage,
so."
man.
They feel like,
And
well,
he stays in
I
God's own
haven't got
country,
enough in
didn't
me
he,
to
Sherman, man?
actually keep going for that.
We were waiting quite a long time
Jock
for the original
Steen's neck of the
court
wood,
case.
man.
Emma, not her real name, reported an allegation of sexual
Jock,
abuse in
I don't know if you've ever
2019.
heard me tell
In
this story.
2023, the case
I
went
find
to
it
court.
fucking highly amusing. I was in the John Moore, I think it was, right, one night. It's right next to my bus stop, and I was grabbing a quick pint on my way through, and there was this couple from Coatbrig, Fenian territory, and they were through the big smoke for a dirty weekend. And I think part of that dirty weekend was obviously getting full of gear. So they were sitting in the John Muir pure full of gear and all that. And long story short, they started chatting to me, right? I wasn't full of gear, I was just like stoned and grabbing a quick pint on the way home. And coming for Coatbrig, they were of the Celtic persuasion, and we started jibber jabbing, and somehow, some way, we got round to like talk. And anyway, I told them Jock Stein was a Mason, and they were like, no. I swear to God, I ruined their fucking whole world view.
But it was adjourned on the first day after a scheduling error meant the judge wasn't available to hear the entire case.
Awful. I can't even explain how many emotions.
Mate, it wasn't the Sports Direct, it was Rangers Direct, and it was the end of season sale. $10 or something, mate.
And then
So,
that's just
you're no far off.
taken away without even any explanation, no clear communication. It was horrendous.
Emma's case has been rescheduled
I'll be
for
honest,
next year.
this is the first
6
Rangers
years after she reported the
strip,
assault. The Ministry of
not top,
Justice
first
said
Rangers
the
strip
number of
I've
sitting
owned in a
days
very
at
long
Crown
time.
Court in England hit a record high last year. But in Telford, as elsewhere,
But
it's too often a case of justice denied.
sometimes things are just
Justice
worthwhile for
delayed.
the reaction,
Michael
you know.
Buchanan, BBC News, Telford.
Now let's talk about the Conservative Party, because they are very much focusing on police this morning. They say they'll recruit thousands more neighbourhood officers. A little earlier I spoke to our correspondent Harry Farley, who's on the
Orban,
road with the
GG,
Tory
that's
campaign.
that Hungary dude, isn't it?
We've arrived
I'm
at the
pretty
campaign
sure.
visit in the southeast, and as you say, Rishi Sunak looking
it's
to make
all
a
planned.
highlight his pledge
You don't
to
think they haven't
recruit
planned?
8,000 more neighbourhood
Well,
police
faceless,
officers.
like,
It's
I
Monday
get where
morning,
you're
he's,
coming
I
from.
suppose, looking to
I
make
kind
fresh
of share your
starts after what
sentiment,
was a very
but I don't
difficult
think it's
week.
as simple
the
as
first
it's
time
all
we'll hear from
planned.
the
I
Prime
think there's
Minister
elements
since all
out
that
there that are
criticism over his
pushing us
decision to
towards
leave,
this.
the D-Day commemorations early. Criticism not just from opposition parties, but from his own
well, I think
cabinet
I've
ministers,
stated
own
my
candidates
crackpot
to
theory
be
of
Conservative
who's
MPs. I was speaking to
orchestrating all
one
this.
candidate over the weekend who said that those who had been previously
and
asking the
the
Prime Minister
Jews
to come to their
or the
constituency to
Illuminati.
hold a campaign rally in their patch were
but
suddenly
here he
begging him not to
faceless.
come. So perhaps that gives you an illustration of just
Georgia
how Conservative
Meloni
candidates are feeling
with her
about
two
the criticism and that decision to leave those
Mussolinis and her
D-Day
brothers of the
commemorations
early part of-
early. But today, Rishi Sunak
I heard.
put all that behind him, looking to emphasise that 8,000
We'll probably
more
hear,
neighbourhood
hopefully.
police officers that the Conservatives say they will recruit.
Oh my God.
If they are
guy
re-elected,
got hit
and as
with
well
a
as
fucking-
that, strengthening
Didn't he
powers
even
to
get hit with an
seize,
ugly tree?
and
Turned into
destroy
the ugly
zombie
tree,
knives
do you know
and
what I mean? He
machetes.
looks like a
If that
scarecrow.
sounds familiar, Mariam, that's because that was a
Oh,
previous
look, that
pledge
clocked
was
that
in the
earlier.
criminal justice bill.
That's
and
how
one
you
of
do a
those bills,
pizza.
that was in the process of going through when Rishi Sunak called
That's what
that
I
snap
call
election,
news.
and so didn't
Fat
pass.
dudes
The
tossing
Conservatives
dough.
reiterating that pledge that they made. Labour's response, Labour's Shadow Home Secretary Yvette Cooper described it as a desperate pledge and said the Conservatives previously promised more police officers on the beat and failed to deliver. And she makes wider points about prisons being in crisis.
I still like to think I'm relatively kind of
crime and policing. The Liberal Democrats, you've just been hearing from there, they
this is the same rhetoric that's getting spewed out again and again and again and again and again.
From those parties, but Rishi Sunak will be looking to put the
Year on
difficulties
year
of last
on
week
year on
behind
year.
him, and focus on crime and policing today.
Now let's take you somewhere else, because as voters prepare for the election here, some fascinating and dramatic results from the European parliamentary election have come in. In France, a surge in support for the hard right, with Marine Le Pen's National Rally Party defeating the centrists of
What do you mean,
President
mate? You're
Emmanuel
4
Macron.
minutes
It all
behind
prompted Mr.
in
Macron
general.
to call a
Is your
snap
brain-
general election. He said he couldn't resign
You're not
himself
drunk or
to the
high,
right's
there's a
progress.
4 minute
Further
delay.
afield, support for Europe's centre-right parties did hold firm. That's the grouping
Now I
of
went for a wee
Commission
cycle this
President
morning
Ursula von der Leyen.
I wanted to
She's
catch the sun
described
before
her
it
bloc
disappeared.
as an anchor of stability. So lots of questions
All right,
about
shit,
the direction
sorry.
of Europe
I'm
as we
zoning
head
out, man, at
into
the
the election.
bit I actually want to listen to.
You somewhere else.
And policing, the Liberal Democrats, which you've just been hearing from there,
fucking
they make similar
bamboozled me.
points, saying that 6,000 crimes go unresolved every day.
GG has
criticism
that
from those
faces.
parties, but Rishi Sunak will be looking to put the difficulties of last week behind him and focus on crime and policing today.
Now let's take you somewhere else, because as voters prepare for the election here, some fascinating and dramatic results from the European parliamentary election.
With me, honey. Forget the politics.
Have come in. In France, a surge in support for the hard right with Marine Le Pen's national rally.
Okay, right. I've noticed this in the last week or so. It's no longer the far right, it's the hard right. Now, I think that sounds very sexual. And I only think that will do them favours. You know, would you rather be far right or hard right? I'd rather be fucking hard right. Goddamn fucking right, I'm fucking hard. You know what I mean? Cunts will love that. I am fucking hard right. Just see me with a few blue things down my neck. Anyway.
Party defeating the centrists of President Emmanuel Macron. It's all prompted Mr. Macron to call a snap general election. He said he couldn't resign himself to the right's progress. But further afield, support for Europe's centre-right parties did hold firm. That's the grouping of the Commission President Ursula von der Leyen. She's described her bloc as an anchor of stability. So lots of questions about the direction of Europe as we head into the election here in the UK.
Does that sound like putting a plaster on a fucking... putting a plaster on a chopped off arm? I don't know.
My colleague in Brussels, Christian Fraser, talked me through all the very latest.
No question what the story of the night was, the shift across the continent to the right. The hard right performing well in Austria, in the Netherlands, in Germany, not so well.
Hard right. So what is hard right? So down the bottom, as you can see, far right surge, but the talking heads are saying hard right. So just watch out. I mean, watch out, do what you want, but I'm going to say you'll notice a change of language. There's no longer working class, it's working people. And there's no longer far right, it's going to be the hard right.
Should be said in Poland.
As they need to make that a wee bit more palatable, because that's where people's
of course, the headline news overnight, the fact that President Macron has called that snap election in France, where the National Rally took 32% of the vote compared to his party's 14%. That is a record performance for the National Rally. It left the president, in his view, with no option but to dissolve Parliament and call that snap election.
The rise of nationalists and demagogues is a danger for our nation, but also for our Europe, for France's position in Europe and in the world. Yes, the far right is both the result of the impoverishment of the French and the downgrading of our country. So at the end of the day, I cannot act as if nothing had happened. Added to this situation is a fever which has gripped public and parliamentary debate in our country in recent years. A disorder which I know worries you, sometimes shocks you, and to which I do not intend to give in. However, today, the challenges that present themselves to us, whether external dangers, climate change and its consequences or threats to our own cohesion, these challenges require clarity in our debates, ambition for the country and respect for every French person. This is why, after having carried out the consultations provided for in Article 12 of our Constitution, I decided to put back in your hands the choice of our parliamentary future by the vote.
Well, I can tell you that at party headquarters last...
So let's fucking clarify, there's like snap election, if you want to call it, here in the UK. I've heard people saying that. It was definitely called earlier, sooner rather than later, let's say, than a lot of people thought or predicted. And pre-filled. Now it's happening in France. And I don't know, this is me just stabbing in the dark. Is he calling it sooner rather than later because he's scared of the continued rise of support for the far right? So it's like, call it now before we keep continuing to hemorrhage support. That's one way that some people might read it, or you could read it. Sunak, he's dead in the water, and it's hardly Rise of the Left, is it? It's just Sunak so fucking shite. But what you've got is you've got the death of Sunak, the right centralists, as they were putting it in European terms, and the rise of Nigel Farage and Melted Welly Bootface. And Melted Welly Bootface is getting in there because he fucking covered for the Royals when it came to Jimmy Savile. And he was, in my opinion, he was told that he would get a wee shot at the top job, and he's going to get in, fuck it up royally, blame it on a poison chalice, and then Farage is going to get in after him. After taking the piss out of him for a good 4 or 5 years in the House of Parliament. Shit, I digress.
Last night in Paris, that drew a sharp intake of breath, with cries of "oh no" from some of Mr. Macron's supporters. But over at Marine Le Pen's
of our constitution, I decided to put back in your hands the choice of our parliamentary future by the vote.
Well, I can tell you that at party headquarters last night in Paris, that drew a sharp intake of breath, with cries of "oh no" from some of Mr. Macron's supporters. But over at Marine Le Pen's election...
Come on, mate, you're not really selling it. It wasn't "oh no," it was you know what I mean? If you'd done that, then I could believe him. There was cries of "oh no." Try to tell me some French cunt sitting there in the main baguette making factory going like that. "Oh no." Or it was like, I'm fucking sick, blah blah. Come on, you need to sex it up, man. This is 2024.
Party, there was...
Can he make a TikTok video with this shit?
Celebration, with many of the people looking on shouting "dissolution, dissolution." Shortly after that, Marine Le Pen took to the stage. This is what she had to say.
The French have spoken, and this historic election shows that when the people vote, the people win. By giving more than 32% to the National Rally, the French have just given us
leave the Christmas cracker shit to me, man.
In 40 years. It's a real emotion to see this beautiful popular force rising up throughout the country.
I can't quite remember, actually.
Shouldn't do that with a Rangers top on, man. I might not get took as like sort of comedy satire.
Memory. Let's have a quick look at the map. This map shows you the communes right across France. The brown is the National Rally.
But no brown ones.
Bar Paris and some of the metropolitan communities.
Hold on a sec. Brown. Brown is the fucking Nazis. It's ironic they're using actually the colour of the skin of the people they hate. But let's have a look.
Around France, it is almost a whitewash.
Ian, it does look like the big Dorito, doesn't it?
Right across the country, which tells you what an enormous memory.
I love maps.
Let's have a quick look at the map. This map shows you the communes right across France. The brown is the National Rally. You can see.
No way, man. I'm pretty sure when fucking the genuine Nazis at World War II invaded France, they had less land. Pretty sure. Or just as much. That's fucking hilarious. Yes, the brown, which is pretty much actually everything in France. Those little speckles of shit are some other cunts. Apart from, I think it was 90-odd%. 90-odd% they go. Fucking Sieg Heil, the fucking surrender monkeys. Fuck me, man.
Bar Paris and some of the metropolitan communities around France, it is almost a whitewash right across.
Almost? What you talking about, mate? You couldn't shit on that fucking map and make it more brown, you fucking idiot. Here, hold on, give me fucking 30 seconds. Maybe a big buck fast.
the country, which tells you what an enormous gamble this is going to be. Our Europe correspondent Nick Beake explained why President Macron had taken the whole country by surprise in calling this snap election.
Huge political bombshell in France. President Macron last night doing this TV address, and he said that he simply couldn't ignore the fact that so many people had voted for the far-right party, for the national rally of Marine Le Pen. In fact, they got double the number of
Speaking of Brown, Kim Jong-un dropped more shit bombs. Yeah, hold on, man. That is the most entertaining news going around at the moment. GG. In response to Kim Jong-un's shit bombs, they've started up the big fucking... the big tannoids. So they've got the big speaker system at the border with big fucking tannoids going, "Yes, you realize the south is better than the north. Please stop sending your shit bombs. We are good. We are good. We are great. We are shit. Do. But it probably is. In fact, I would love to. It's probably not beyond the realms of deep research. Maybe the second page of Google search results to find out. Like what they actually say over the big tannoid. Anyway, let's get back to the Nazis taking over the European Union. Who'd have thunk it? Who'd have thunk it? And we're not even in on that action. Fuck's sake. Nigel Farage will be kicking himself now like that. Fuck. I could have been fucking Der Fuhrer. Fuck. I could have took over that shower of shits, man. I've got more charisma than all those pricks. He'll be kicking himself. Mr. Trick. But he'll just be the Fuhrer of the United Kingdom come 5 years' time.
Elections, they'll take place, the first round just in 3 weeks' time, and he's taking a massive gamble here. Last night, President Macron said that to be French is to write history, not to be governed by it. But it could well be that we find out in less than a month's time he's made an historic, monumental error. Having said that, it could be that he's taking the best possible course of action in the circumstance in which he finds himself.
I swear to God, that does not surprise me at all.
In France, and maybe he's thinking that these elections for this place, the European Parliament, don't...
Just the fact that they've got big speakers and God knows what they're rattling across thing, and then shit bombs coming over. I mean, that's my kind of war. Speakers and shit bombs. Why don't they just shit bomb them back? Imagine it became a little war of shit. See, instead of a war of attrition, and it just came a little war of shit. And it was like nobody needed to. It was like you propaganda posters. Your country needs you, or your poo. You and your poo. That would be sweet, man. That's like fucking comic book wars, isn't it? That's the business. Nobody gets hurt. You might just get a bit of shit on you, man. Well, better than fucking AK-47 falling in your head. I don't know. That would probably hurt right enough. But get the poo balloons. Well, hold on. There's a damn buster joke in there. There's a damn buster joke somewhere. I've not quite nailed it yet, but there's definitely a damn buster joke. Do 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 do.
necessarily translate into votes in the French national election, and maybe there is the will and the capacity to build a coalition to keep out the far right in France, even if they top the polls.
Maybe.
Well, certainly the far right party in France has won the last 3 European elections.
Right, okay, did you see that map, you dick? Here's a thing for you as well. See the far right party in France? They're not a fan of the European Union. I can see shit bombs coming to Europe soon. Maybe the Korean War, which never really ended. In fact, I think it never officially ended. In fact, I think I'm fucking bang on the button. There's never a truce or a ceasefire or anything. They're still officially at war, that's why you get shit bombs and all that.
In terms of the vote in France, so that is not new. I think the extent to which they trounced President Macron's party yesterday was new, and they will certainly be hoping that they're on the crest of a wave here and can consolidate this success in the national elections. Yes, certainly Marine Le Pen has tried to change the image of this party, to detoxify it, as some may say. Of course, it was the father who, for many people, was seen as the unacceptable face of France. Even though they were picking up votes some 20, 30 years ago, there was always this alliance against them. But in the past couple of years, they've used very savvy marketing and other sort of PR tools at their disposal.
Come on, it's on the tip of everybody's tongue. The internet and social medias to create fucking little cult bubbles. It's even more powerful coming from some cunt sitting in a Rangers top and humming the fucking the Dam Busters tune.
So they've been big on TikTok. They've got a 28-year-old leader now leading the party. And they seem to be picking up the youth vote, which has been an interesting dynamic.
The youth vote, you see? The youth vote, you see? Oh! Well, how have they been getting the youth vote? Have they been out using flyers? Have they been using smoke signals? What about the old carrier pigeon? What about the press? I heard the newspapers have a way of reaching people. How have they been getting the youth vote? I have no idea. Let's ban TikTok, but I have no idea how to get the youth vote, yo. Shush! And let's not forget, the right wing have all the hookers, all the blow, and all the fun, and no Jesus fucking sandals. Do you know what I mean? Like, what young impressionable person's going to gravitate towards a fucking Jesus-loving fucking I don't shoot guns fucking hippie compared to, hey, tits and teeth and fucking guns and fucking Joe Rogan and I'm a fucking taekwondo fucking expert and I look like a big toe and I've got no neck. I'm Joe Rogan. I don't look like I've been juicing since I was fucking 2 feet high, which was like when I reached 19. And they all are like, you can just tell cunts that are on the roids, man. It's just body mass. I think steroids secretly get into your bones and just like double your bones. Shit.
Rather than talk about, as President Macron has, about the stability of Europe and geopolitical matters, and it's clear that he is someone who likes that role that he takes on the global stage. The National Rally have been talking about making lives better for younger people, the cost of living crisis, as they call it, and all that sort of stuff, trying to paint this positive...
The cost of living crisis, as they call it. Right, who calls it that? As they call it. Who's they? The Illuminati? The so-called Islamic State? So-called by who? I'm confused here. I'm fucking well confused. It's like me rocking up and going, aye, what's your name? Well, so-called Craig Houston. Right, so what's going on? Why the fuck are they fucking... Who? So-called by who? By whom? I tell you what, isn't there some fucking Arab in the sand going like that here? Mate, what's the name of your terrorist organisation? We're the so-called Islamic State. So-called by the editors and regurgitators and fucking information fucking warriors and fucking chief of the press. That's who. And they get it for fucking central office, the Illuminati central office, and they're told to call it small boats, cost of living crisis, not a wartime economy, but don't call it World War III, because we need people still to buy McDonald's burgers. We don't want people knowing we're at war when we're at war. Yeah, we're funding the war. we're training the warriors, oh, shit's getting used in the war, there's a few fronts in the war, but we're not at war, just keep eating your fucking Burger Kings, you pricks. And in the meantime, I can hear it on Talk Sport and predominantly Talk, what used to be Talk TV, Talk Radio, and just the rhetoric. Hamas terrorists, Hamas terrorists, Hamas terrorists. Can I say the word Hamas without saying terrorists after it in some news organisations? Beating up the BBC, right? And it's not because the BBC are, well, in fact, some of them will convince you that the BBC are just full of paedophile Satanists. Convince you that the whole organisation, as massive as it is just from head to toe full of paedophile Satanists, right? And nobody begs to ask a question, right? The people who are like painting that absolute fucking narrative are the people, are the opposition of the BBC, is the BBC's competitors. And again, right, depending on how pre-programmed you may or may not be, you might think I'm sitting here defending the BBC or something. I'm not. Anyway, Rogan would... you can never catch pigeon. Basically means stuff you need to live, like water, electricity, food, that sort of stuff. Rogan would be motley.
Vision of France.
Oh, Jimmy Savile was fucking ping dong at the BBC. Jim will fix it.
Those elections. Let's return now to our UK election coverage.
If you have never seen this, I'm pretty sure it's on my channel somewhere. One of the funniest ever prank calls. I think it was a BBC Belfast, I think it was. And one of the news presenter was reading out a tweet or a fucking text. It was like, Jimmy Savile wasn't all bad. He once fixed it for me to milk a cow blindfolded. Oh man, she read it out live on air. She came back on to apologise later on, man. It is well funny.
The Liberal Democrats will unveil their manifesto as political parties begin another week
on
that campaign
that
trail.
Mosley guy dying is such headline news. I just,
Beckman, who is there for us.
all
Henry,
sympathies in
I
the world.
dare to think what Ed Davey has up his sleeve this week.
Well, that has been his election campaign, hasn't it? It's been a campaign of stunts. It began with him falling off a paddleboard in the Lake District, and then he was drumming on an exercise ball and all sorts of other things. There was a large Jenga block.
Don't change your channel. This is UK politics.
The interesting thing, of course, taking an interview while playing tennis. I certainly couldn't have done that. I'm rubbish at tennis. But the thing that Ed Davey has managed to do is use the stunts to illustrate a broader picture, I think, about his personality. Because despite having been around in politics for more than 25 years, he was elected as an MP in 1997. Despite having been the Liberal Democrat leader since 2020, I think a lot of people won't know a lot about him. And what he's tried to do via these stunts, I think, is introduce himself to the public, earn a hearing, and then start talking about things that matter to him. And he's talked a lot about his own personal experience of being a carer. And today, as he unveils his manifesto, he's going to major on care and health, which is something the Liberal Democrats think the major two parties aren't talking about enough.
What kind of coup was it?
Care, social care, health.
It was the Maidan coup.
Many people are asking, all the parties really,
the BBC are not
going to come from, and it seems no one really wants to put their hands up and say, look, you know, we might in the future have to look at personal taxes. Instead, they're talking about getting the money from other areas. Where are the Lib Dems thinking they're going to get the money from?
Can he work that?
Well, they say they'd spend £9 billion more a year in England on health and social care by 2028 if they were to win the general election and have their policies implemented.
And change your name to the Spy, that would be well cool.
Tax increases. Firstly, an increase to the rate of capital gains tax. They haven't been completely specific about how. And secondly, increasing the levies charged on banks.
Just loves me.
Now, what is striking about that is twofold. Firstly, they are actually talking
But
about
hey, oh
tax
man, like,
increases
in
in a
all
way
honesty,
that the main
man,
two
it's meant to
parties
be
are
place
pretty
for
desperate
everybody.
not to do. But they are not the big ticket
Including
personal taxes. They are
crackpots like me.
joining with Labour and the Conservatives in saying they wouldn't increase income tax, national insurance or VAT.
I am so pre-programmed that every picture I see Sunak in, I'm just like, are they deliberately trying to make him look small? Look at it! Look, it's like pure... Like, they could have zoomed in and cropped it or something. You know, he just looks like... That's me a couple of layers on my tinfoil hat there.
And that, to many economic experts, is almost a conspiracy of silence because, and it's a point we've made before, but it can't be repeated often enough, if you talk to economists, they think that unless there is booming growth of the sort that isn't currently forecast over the next few years, there is a hole at the heart of every party's tax and spend plans because they say you're either, on Britain's current trajectory, is going to have significant spending cuts, more so than is necessarily appreciated by many members of the public, or increases in taxes.
Let's move on from talking about the Lib Dems just for a bit, Henry, because we've had some news elsewhere from the Scottish Conservatives. Douglas Ross has announced he'll resign as leader of the Scottish Conservatives. It's never a good look, is it, for a party leader to announce a resignation in the middle of an election campaign? What's happened here?
Well, you say it's never a good look for a party leader to announce their resignation during an election campaign. I think it's extremely rare. I'm not sure there are many precedents for a party leader to announce their resignation during a general election campaign. I mean, of course, he's the leader of the Scottish Conservatives, so it's sort of a step down from a national party leader. But nevertheless, it's still significant. I mean, what's happened is that Douglas Ross made a very surprising announcement at the end of last week, just before nominations closed for getting on the ballot paper in all of the 650 constituencies being contested in the UK, that he was going to stand for re-election, albeit in a new constituency, in this general election. Now, he had previously, when he became leader of the Scottish Conservatives, sought election successfully to the Scottish Parliament, so he was working as both a member of the Scottish Parliament and an MP. The expectation had been that he would stand down from the Westminster Parliament
the
and
rats
focus on the Scottish Parliament.
but he's
in just a few
definitely more
days,
a
he's flipped that
weasel
on its head,
than a rat.
and it looks like he wants to stand down from the Scottish Parliament, if he's successful in re-election for Westminster, and focus on the House of Commons. I think one thing that tells us is he's not necessarily wildly optimistic about the Scottish Conservatives' prospects in the Holyrood elections, the Scottish Parliament elections, which we're expecting in 2026. At the moment, he's got quite a prominent role in the Holyrood
Look,
Parliament
Lion,
there,
next time I'm
scrutinising
doing
the
a
SNP government led by John
cabinet
Swinney,
for Tommy,
but
man. You're
clearly
going to be
thinks
in
that
the shout.
actually there's
Going
going
to
to
be
be
a
more
shout,
interesting things for him
man.
to do in Westminster in the coming years.
OK, let's go back to manifestos. The Lib Dems today. We have the Conservatives and the Labour Party later this week. What have the Tories and Labour been saying today about
Ian,
their policies? What are they focusing
see what you're saying there, man? It's kind of self-evident, isn't it?
Well, we do have...
I mean, like, even the biggest bullshitters out there are saying, like, there's... How is it they dumb it down for us, the great unwashed, There's no money in the coffers. You know, they use analogies of Tony... Well, I've heard people use analogies of Tony Blair back in the day, storming into power, the way that he did with that kind of wave of support. But they were talking about how Tony Blair kind of inherited a relatively well-functioning economy, whereas Keir Starmer's inheriting, which can only be interpreted as an extra special kind of shit show. So, like, the expectations of him turning it around, never mind being able to do anything fucking straight out the traps, is minimum. So this shit in the manifestos is just all bull crap, man. Like, not only would I have my Saturday night political game show, Yes, No, or Fucking Die, soundproof booth. All you do is need a soundproof booth. Else, a big screen, maybe even make it 4K, push your boat out, and a guillotine, and you put politicians in the middle and you get people to ask them questions, and they've got 3 options. You answer the question yes, no, or we pull the guillotine down on them. And I swear politicians' assholes they'll pucker up. They will up their game. I forgot my original point, but anyway, let's get on with chewing gum teeth.
All of the main party manifestos this week, as you say, but before we get the full picture from both parties, they're still rolling the pitch with some fairly significant policy announcements today. The Conservatives are talking about getting more police on the beat. They say that their plans will actually amount to an extra neighbourhood police officer in every ward in England and Wales should they win re-election. They say this would be funded by increasing by 25% the fees that people pay if they want to come to the UK and apply for a visa, the visa fees that they pay. Now, expect a bit of argy-bargy between them and the Labour Party, who also say that they would significantly increase the number of bobbies on the beat, to use that phrase.
Labour, I thought it was like some sort of a financial institution. I think it actually might be.
Let's see how that plays out. Labour, meanwhile, are talking about childcare today. Keir Starmer, the leader of the Labour Party, has just been visiting a nursery. And what Labour are saying is that they would like to use spare capacity in primary schools, physical capacity, empty classrooms, basically, and turn them into nurseries. They say because of the falling birth rates in some parts of the country, there is significant excess capacity in primary schools, and they say
Peter, I think somebody said that the other day, and my response to that was, it would be lucky to be any sort of PM.
on private school fees for the first time.
I heard talking heads on
to convert some of those classrooms
the Times
into
radio.
Nurseries. That said, the early years
political talking head commentators,
this
so they're important.
Saying that the
and they're saying like he's been removed from the campaign.
Of the childcare sector in particular.
He's been removed from the Conservatives campaign to become the ruling party.
Have grappled with
because he's that fucking toxic right now.
Henry, good to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed, Henry.
Because of the World War II thing,
there, it is manifesto
which was
week,
easily a
manifesto
fucking sabotage, man.
For the Liberal Democrats, but what
we
goes
live in
into
the world of the
manifesto? How
sabotage.
hard is it
The SNP
to
gets
write one,
sabotaged
and
off
how
a show
difficult
shit
is it to get it completely right? Let's cross live now. Speak to Lord William Wallace,
and the
Liberal
speaker
Democrat peer, who helped write
looking
the
for a
party's
ceasefire in Gaza.
1997
That gets
manifesto.
sabotaged.
Good to talk to you, Lord Wallace. Thanks for joining us. So, tell me a little bit about what in your book makes the perfect manifesto, if such a thing exists.
Such a thing does not exist.
I was wondering if there was
I also
fucking a
wrote
rape
our
happening.
79 manifesto, so I go back a long way.
Right.
It was really quite amateur then.
But specific
in
tax, not
1997,
general
we went
tax.
through a very long process with the party's policy.
Sounds like you're
committee,
into the
and I remember
technical
thinking
aspects
after
of the
my
old
third visit with Paddy
governmenting,
that it was very good to have a party leader who was so interested in it. But after my 15th visit with Paddy, I began to think I was the party leader to take such a detailed view. It was a lot of work.
See if you go into it with see if you put your Mr. Spot fucking ears on right and start thinking about tax, you're like, right, hold on, I earn money, I get taxed on it. I then spend money, get taxed on it. And then want to save money, get taxed on it. And then want to hand that money down the fucking. I managed to fucking wriggle away for no fucking giving the tax, man. If I want to give it to my kin, you're getting taxed on that. I mean, like, boom, 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 boom. I mean, it's like almost like you need to sprout more arseholes to keep getting fucked.
Manifestos are so important because they come back to haunt you.
And then it's only the small fries that get raped, right? Fucking like that can't snake out all the taxes, you know.
Can you afford it? The question of how to cost a manifesto is going to be very bitter.
A fellow lord there,
and the costing of
is this
a
old
lot of
dude
what the
here,
parties
mate?
are talking about is very much in focus now, and it seems that nowadays, at least, it's the trend, isn't it, not to kind of bring in personal taxes. It seems that parties are worried about that.
Well, in 1997, we did put in the Liberal Democrat manifesto that we would add a penny to income tax for education.
I don't really. I used to be right into all those technical aspects and all that, right? In and around the Ron Paul time. And he was talking about the Austrian economics and all that jazz, and like
I think it's fairly clear.
I found myself getting sucked right in.
Conditions are impossible. And will lead to appalling cuts in public services. So everyone is dancing around.
In hindsight, I felt that I was getting sucked into one side rather than, you know, one side over the other rather than being objective. You know, you were getting sold one system over the other rather than being able to stand back and going, hold on. This is just another way. It's just a different shimmy in the 3 shell fucking
What are you expecting in their manifesto? And what do you think about their focus on the NHS and social care? Is that the right thing to do?
The only people that win are like people that run their own businesses and then have to do their taxes and shit, and now it's all on the phone and shit. It's mental.
Conservatives promising to reform it and then failing.
But taxis pays for stuff
reforming
at
social
hospitals
care
and stuff.
will do a whole host of things, including.
Well, Ian has said that like what I would do in my if I get democratically elected as dictator,
the NHS, so it really is a very important part.
I would have direct taxation.
Okay, well,
right.
Lord William Wallace.
So your national insurance
to talk to you and to get your
would go to play for
a little bit of a window into history and how
it would just be like an insurance policy for health.
Thank you very much indeed for joining us on BBC News.
It'd be mandatory for everybody, and everything would be free at the point of need.
Hello, the search for summer
it'd be ruthless, though, man. I mean, like fucking
the first half of the week keeps temperatures well
tummy tucks and fucking vagina removals and all that shit, man. They would be flung off the NHS.
Dry and reasonably sunny for the next few days,
and my NHS.
And widespread rain later in the week.
Tax, like you see your car tax, your car tax. You know what that would go to? That would go to paying for the roads and shit.
It stays pretty windy here throughout the
and
day.
like,
and
so there would be more taxation in the sense there would be more taxes, but they would all taxes would be ring fenced, and there would be a direct tax. There would even be like a tax called miscellaneous, which is basically just like a big war fund in case the country has to fucking go balls out and fucking demolish some cunt. Which exists today, this day, but it's wrapped up in quantitative reason, and you don't know when you pay tax where the fuck it's going and what it's doing. Certainly, your NI certainly ain't going towards the hospitals or to run the hospitals efficiently.
But a lot of bright weather around for Tuesday.
They seem to be getting sabotaged from within.
We had today, but the shower clouds will build up.
Your road tax certainly doesn't go to fucking filling in potholes.
And we've seen through today the heaviest of the showers.
So it's a different way of looking at things. These things are never even debated, suggested, put on the fucking table.
Temperatures could even be
because you get a bullet in your head.
Another cold night will follow then to take us into Wednesday. There will be the best of sunshine.
Taxis pay for diversity managers.
The build up after that sunny start.
Well, there we go. Ian, it's not the fact that tax exists; it's how it's spent and where it's spent. And here's a crazy fucking idea. When I'm dictator, when I get democratically elected as dictator, it doesn't mean that I'll be bouncing about, fucking doing what I want. Me, as my role as dictator would be to carry out the will of the people, which can be done by like direct.
Across the rest of the country,
voting as well. So there'd be some sort of a. I've not worked out the minuses of this, right? But there'd be some mechanism through online shit, secure online stuff where people can suggest a question to get put forward, and then that question would get put forward to the people. For example, should
these are the headlines
all
the Liberal Democrats prepare to launch their general
should all water companies be nationalised
in the NHS and social care?
Right. And then that would get
Voters
put up.
in parts of Europe deliver a surge
and
in
then
support for hard
if 51% of the people voted on that, wanted it to be nationalised, me as my role as dictator would make it so.
Snap parliamentary
and all this, aye but no, blah blah. Giving him a wee backhander, you know. So shut up, bitch. No, because that's my role as dictator and carrying out the will of the people without red tape and you can't do that. The European rules are no, I'm dictator of this country. I'm carrying out the sovereign will of the people, and that bit of paper don't mean shit. So fuck off. Water de France, Coca-Cola, every cunt. Water is going to be like fucking health treatment, free on point of contact. Free pot noodles as well. Look, there we go, man. But that's me just to get the fucking young vote in. Once I con them into voting for me, man, I'll hike up the price of pot noodles to pay for all my bullshit.
Michael was down to earth, was kind, generous, and he was, for me.
Right, I swear to God, this is the fucking most advertised fucking death since Jesus. Although even that's up for debate. What is this? Why is this guy's death getting put in such a pedestal, man? I mean, fucking God bless him and all that fucking jazz, but fuck me. Was he like a secret deity behind fucking closed doors? Was he like the head dong of like the eyes wide shut fucking sex parties of the elite? There's something going on, man. I thought it was going to turn out that his wife murdered him or something.
This is the Sky News Today with Wilfred Frost. It's 10 o'clock.
My name's
Chuck. A political shock in France as President Macron calls a snap election after a bruising loss to the far right in the EU election.
Right, I'm sorry, this isn't a shock. The bookies wouldn't take my money fucking months ago on Le Pen and her party marching in. Although I'm pretty glad they didn't, because I was voting on Le Pen to become president, and I don't even think she's in charge now. She's more like a... I think she probably still could become King Dong, but I think she's handed down the baton to one of her one of her kin, a niece and nephew or some shit. I think it's a little Hitler-esque.
It's here, the first official manifesto launch of the campaign, with the Liberal Democrats about to set out their plans ahead of the election. Family of Harry Dunn say they're shocked and upset that his killer won't be giving evidence as the inquest
sounds
into his death
equally
gets underway.
Equal proportions enticing and disgusting.
Almost 5 years. We're tired, we're exhausted.
But I'm certainly going to fucking look at
A
her.
devastating loss. Tributes from friends and family to the TV presenter Michael Mosley, whose body has been taken to Rhodes following its discovery yesterday. The NHS launches an urgent appeal for O-type blood donors after a cyber attack hit some of London's largest hospitals. Plus, concern for the former Liverpool legend and Match of the Day pundit Alan Hansen, who's reported to be seriously ill in hospital.
That's a shame, man. Fucking heart attack or something. Did they get the vax?
A very good morning to you. We start with a shock move from the French President Emmanuel Macron, who's called a snap election after his...
Right, now, this isn't even wordplay. I was in Tesco the other day, and do you know those wee fucking macaroons? Fucking about £5 for a bunch of wee fucking luminous looking biscuits. No, Ian, I didn't know who he was. His name alone, I thought of Oswald Mosley. I first heard his name. And I did not have a Scooby-Doo, my mate, who he was, but then I've seen him on the news and shit, and I was like, alright, that's that dude. So I'd seen him around, but wasn't aware of who he was, if that makes any sense.
Party suffered a damage.
And are you talking about the wee biscuit things in Tesco? Fucking nearly $5, man. And I don't know why I did think of fucking no macaroon, what's his name? Macron.
Defeat in EU-wide elections. Marine Le Pen's national rally beat his party in a result echoed across the continent, with far-right parties making big gains. The election raises the prospect of there being a far-right prime minister in France, but Marine Le Pen's national rally will have to make a massive step forward from France's most recent parliamentary election in 2022, in which it won 89 seats. That compares to 245 seats won by Macron's centrist pro-European coalition, which was still well short of the 289 seats needed to form a majority. Our European correspondent Anna Parsons has this report.
In France, a seismic moment. The far-right Rassemblement National party on its way to a crushing victory in the country's...
Are we going to have to liberate these fucking surrender monkeys, fucking motherfuckers again?
Renaissance party into a distant second place, winning more than twice as many votes. Macron's response, dissolving parliament and calling fresh elections.
La montée des nationalistes, des démagogues,
est un danger pour notre nation.
The rise in nationalism poses a danger to the nation. Big bag.
For so many years, Marine Le Pen has been the mainstay of the French far right, but never has she seen a victory as remarkable as this.
Yeah, aye, that was the Albanians that were the one, man.
Voted for her party.
Je ne peux que saluer cette décision.
I can only welcome this decision, which is in line with the logic of the institutions of the Fifth Republic. We're ready for it. After the legislative elections of 2022, which designated the National Rally Party as the main parliamentary opponent, these European elections confirm our movement as the major force for change in France.
Our movement, the main opposition or some shit, did she say there? I kind of zoned out a wee bit, but you heard the kind of general gist, which is exactly what Vag is doing as well. I've just remembered like one of the my spotlight moments I used to use when talking about these retards and these kind of movements. You know, there's this. It's an international. Let me get this right. International nationalism. It's mental. It's like Trump supports, Vag supports Trump. Trump supports Vag, but they're both nationalists in their own country. Vag supports Le Pen. Le Pen supports Vag, but they're both nationalists. Right? So if they ain't real nationalists, what else is going on? And go... don't listen to what they fucking say. They're politicians. They will tell you what you want to fucking hear. Brown people on boats coming over here, stealing our jobs and shagging our women. So if they ain't genuine nationalists, what the fuck are they? If there is a global movement all hiding behind the veil of rule Britannia, rule France, fucking make America great again, all that shit, what is it? It's very easy to fucking see the fucking writings on the wall. And if that's your bag, batter in. Right, if you want to be a fucking fascist or Nazi, batter in, get a uniform, go to the rallies. Just don't hide behind freedom of speech. I love my country, shite. Because you're fucking just little Nazis and fascist fucks. Cuckoo for Cocoa Puff, Cuckoo on Cocoa Puffs or some shit like that. On religion, scared of the Muslims. Whether they're right or wrong, who knows? Anyway, I digress. I'll just end up talking pish when Zilita is speaking.
Have smoothed the edge of their politics. Now the far right is on top. The catalyst for President Macron's decision were the elections for this place, the European Parliament, and we have seen a surge in support
Le Pen,
for nationalist and far-right parties.
I've removed it. Right, this isn't like something new, man. Where's the fucking thumbnail with the poll and all that jazz? Anyway, can't quite find it right now, so it's calling me a liar. Proving me to be a liar. But the point being is, this has been happening for ages now. Like it, load it, I'm just commenting on it and noticing it, and this is the correlation between the rise of social media and all the shite that gets propagated on social media. Because, like, the right-wing stuff is way cooler than the left-wing stuff, you know what I mean? So, all the kids fucking gravitate towards that. One of the first time, when I started to begin to notice it was when I was in contact with those, this guy ended up in RT, the Anthony Samaroff. he was right into the Ron Paul stuff and the Libertarian movement, and he started up the Scottish Libertarian Party and the Scottish Libertarian podcast, which I went on a few times. He put me in contact with some of his kind of pals that were gravitating towards the libertarian movement. And long story short, I ended up at a party. And God, this must have been, God knows, about 10 years ago, something like that. And I still felt I was young at the time, but the people at the party were a lot younger than me, and they were all like kind of like middle class Nazis. I was like, what the fuck is going on here, man? I was like a wee Ned, but I was fucking compared to them and their politics. I was like a fucking wee Jesus sandal wearing hippie. But like, oh man, it was so weird. I would never met cunts like that before in my life. And then that's when I was like, hold on, that the young dungs of this generation are fucking grown up listening to Joe Rogan, Ron Paul and Alex Jones for their PoliTITS. And Ron Paul, it was like, wow, man. It's like, it was an eye-opener for me, but very educational nevertheless. Anyway, so this has been happening for ages. It's no any great surprise.
But in France, that surge has turned into a shockwave.
Oh, a shockwave.
In Brussels, an election party for young liberals, and a sense of shock at Macron's move.
I think he's really cynical, and he's playing a dangerous game, because I think he's risking to play out the security and the stability of French democracy.
On a night of turbulence, the Belgian Prime Minister also announced that he would be resigning following bad results.
Woo!
And in Paris, protests. The Rassemblement National may spark anger, but the fact is they won this election by a mile. Across France, there's a desire for change. This nation may just have fallen out of love with its president. Adam Parsons, Sky News, Brussels.
Well, let's bring in Adam Parsons and also Siobhan Robbins, who's in Berlin this morning. Adam's in northern France. Adam, I'll come to you first of all on this decision by President Macron to take some bad EU-wide results for his party in his country and potentially make things even worse for himself. Just talk us through what's up for grabs now and when the next vote is.
The world's going to be at war soon, man. We need far-right leaders to fucking get us fucking through Putin.
This is about the National Assembly, which is dissolved. So elections at the end of this month and then a second round on the 7th of July. And this is about effectively a litmus test in him and in his party. He has done terribly in these European elections. He didn't have to call this parliamentary election, by the way. And there are a lot of people who think that he's jumped the gun far too fast here, including some of his political opponents. But they're pretty jubilant, because in places like this, this is Marine Le Pen's heartland, they think that they're going to do really, really well in this parliamentary election. They don't see any reason why the results here don't replicate the success they've had in Europe. And they are pretty confident that if you join the dots, that if they have a great success in the parliamentary election, then Macron will have to make a concession by giving them a job, and that job would be Prime Minister, and the person who would get it would be 28-year-old Jordan Bardella. There is a decent chance, I would say, that in, a month's time, we could have a 28-year-old far-right politician as Prime Minister of France.
So I want to explore that in a bit more detail in a moment, but
don't tell Tommy Robinson, man. He'll start getting ideas.
But first, Siobhan, sum up for us the other key takeaways from the EU elections.
Korean Margaret 8 bells is fine
as well.
I don't even know what context that's in, DJ, but
who's going to end up with the most seats?
Morning, Wilf. Yeah, let's just quickly run through the winners and the losers.
The less I gravitate towards curry. Like, for two reasons. The fucking price
Europe.
Right.
So
Used to be a cheap option, didn't it?
Adam in France, also in
no
Italy,
longer.
Georgia Meloni,
And number two,
predicted to get around 28% of the vote, really
not the
securing
number
her
two, but
position
number
both
two
domestically but also on the European stage. Here in Germany, where I am, the
stays with you
Alternative
for
Germany
ages.
Party
Do you know what I mean?
predicted to come in second here, and that's a really bad
especially
night
if you're
for
having
the
a good
Chancellor
few
Olaf
lagers,
Scholz.
man.
His party, the Socialist Democrats, have been pushed into third place.
I hate to say it, man. I
Their
like my
worst
fucking
showing
McDonald's
ever.
plastic
And that's
muck shit.
despite the AfD, which is the far-right party,
And a
being
Burger King
surrounded
burger
by
is
a
them.
number of scandals in the
Price
run-up
anyway,
to
look,
this
you
election.
can tell I'm
So
hungry.
they're the winners in
I've
that
got a
sense.
baked
And
potato
lots
you
of
look
it
forward to.
is thought about here is potentially because of young people's votes, so 16-year-olds could vote here for the first time, and then also bigger issues like the cost of living and migration all playing in. Now, across Europe,
DJ,
the
am I not right in
losers
saying
appear to
that?
have been Greens,
Like, no,
because
I'm
they're
obviously
predicted to have
exaggerating a
lost
ball
around
here, but
18
maybe you'll
seats,
get
and
what
that
I'm
could
trying to
potentially
say.
be because
Am I not right
the
in saying
last,
every cunt
vote
in
was
Australia is on
2019.
the
Since then,
coast?
we've had
I know there's
massive
obviously different
eruptions around
coasts,
the world, including
but
the war in Ukraine and the
am I not
conflict
right
in
in
the
saying
Middle
that
East?
like
So
99.9%
voters'
of
have
Australia's
changed,
population
and
are on
potentially
the
they're more
coast?
concerned now by
And
migration
as
or
soon as you go
spiralling
a couple of
prices than
mile
they are
inland, it's just
by the
fucking
environment.
Aborigines
and
and
then
they
the thing
cunt.
to take away is the fact that it's actually the centre-right which is still looking to get the most seats, more than 180 seats predicted to get be got by the European People's Party. So they are the ones who still have a really strong grip on European Parliament.
I want to explore a bit
Slowly
more
the
the
shift
impact
to
in
the
Germany
right.
in a moment. But
These
switching
parties
back
are
to
all
France,
nationalistic,
Adam, we've got some live pictures,
not
I think, actually, of President Macron
pro-European
out
Union.
and about at the moment, as I'm
That's
being
the
told,
shift,
it's
the
meeting
attitude.
some World War II veterans. Of course, we had all the D-Day celebrations last week. Could this
Nothing quite says
aspect,
I'm the fucking I'm the
national
dude like a
fervour
sash.
from that, and of course the pending Olympics, be a factor in what otherwise seemed like a very, very quick decision by him last night to call these elections?
This is one of the curious elements to it. Yeah, Macron is down at the moment.
Remember when Gaza done that, man? That was hilarious. Meeting veterans. I think he thought that there would be a halo effect of hosting the D-Day commemorations. Well, the Olympics around the corner. And frankly, there were plenty who thought... DJ, I think I might have exaggerated some of the distances and stuff, but I remember somebody pointing that out, you know, like, because, like, Australia's a desert. As soon as you go away for the coast, and I believe, and I say for obvious reasons, man, just the fucking climate of the gaff.
He's done the absolute
and the fact
opposite.
that as soon as you go inland, there's pretty much no water.
Inflection point. I am going to call an election. I understand he did not consult many people, if any, before he made this decision. There are those who've always said that Macron is impulsive. But remember, this is a guy who set up his own political party to run for president, got the presidency in his 30s, then won it again. He has had a life that has been pretty gilded with political success. Suddenly, when you are
never
faced
really
with
paid much attention to the internal politics of
and very
France.
rare for an incumbent party to do this badly in a European election. Although Siobhan will tell you it happened in
Never
Germany
knew he started
as
up
well.
his own shin.
I wonder,
His
there
own
are those who
gig.
think that Macron effectively sort of panicked. He thinks that in a national election, people will vote differently, that they have different fears from the European election. Frankly, I'm not sure that's right. This is a huge gamble for him to take.
And Adam, just play it out for us and remind our viewers.
I wonder what odds
where
the
power
bookies
really
would have
sits
gave
in
me if
France.
they took my if they would have rumbled up some odds about Le Pen getting in as president.
2027. If the National Rally do very well in these parliamentary
I'm
elections,
still not
coming in a
even
couple
sure
of
she
weeks,
can or
so
she will,
much
because
so,
I'm pretty sure
that they
ahead of the.
have a majority or many more seats in the National
I will
Assembly.
learn more
and they,
moving forward.
have
I know
the
it's
Prime
her
Minister.
clique,
Who will
let's
ultimately
say.
have the power and be setting
I don't know if
policy?
she's
And
like
has the
head
French
of it.
Constitution ever seen a president and a prime minister of such opposing views in place?
Yeah, so it's a complex constitutional question, but to put it simply, yeah, the president has the overall power, but Parliament can rein him in a lot. There are some times when the president can override them, but that is a real nuclear option. Yes, France has had before president and prime minister from different parties. It's a trick that has been played before, but it hasn't had a prime minister from the far right since the Second World War. Macron won't be leaving the Elysee, unless he decides to resign, which I don't think anyone is expecting. But that is another element of this, is that for the last 2 presidential elections, he has beaten Marine Le Pen. If these elections that are coming up in a month's time go well for the Rassemblement National, if they seize control of the National Assembly, let's say, and let's imagine that faced with that, Macron feels he has to do this concession, that young Jordan Bardella ends up as Prime Minister. I think he's a much more likely option than Marine Le Pen. Then that does lead the way to a 3rd run for Marine Le Pen, or I should say another run for Marine Le Pen to try to become president. And remember, Macron can't stand again. He will have had his 2nd term. He can't run for a 3rd time.
Le Pen can run.
The next presidential election could well be Marine Le Pen up against someone much less experienced, maybe Gabriel Attal. And sitting here now, you would say that if those were
I think it was Faceless that was in earlier in the chat saying it's all planned and all that jazz. I kind of get where she was coming from.
And just to round things off,
it definitely seems that there's all these independent nationalists, our country's the greatest, put our borders up, fucking let's be insular and all that. Seems to be like a global coordinated effort of all these fucking Christian nationalists.
Olaf Scholz the biggest loser last night?
Really seems to be, man.
You're right. The headlines would have been on
Be
Germany
Trump,
if we hadn't
to the
had
hungry
that
cunt,
from
to
Emmanuel
Wilders,
Macron, because
to
the AfD,
fucking Le
this
Pen,
far-right party
to
here, has come second,
Farage.
pushing Olaf
Fucking
Scholz's party into
probably
third.
more people
now,
that I'm
this isn't
forgetting
a total
right now.
surprise in that the polls had suggested they were
Was
going
it
to
not a fucking surprise?
Earlier
Fucking
in the year, they were
Cocoa
polling
Pop
extremely
fucking
highly,
lip.
but then there were these huge rallies against the far right after there was this insinuation that some of their members had joined a meeting talking about the forced deportation of migrants. So people got very concerned here. Thousands went onto the streets, and people were wondering if that was going to hit their numbers. And then there were also a number of scandals that affected the AfD in the run-up to this. So, for example, their lead candidate had to kind of step away after suggesting that not all members of the SS were criminals. At the same time, his aide was being investigated for allegedly spying for China. And then the second candidate on the list, there were allegations that he potentially had been paid to speak for pro-Russian platforms. So a lot of scandals surrounding them. And I think that Olaf Scholz was hoping that maybe he could capitalise on that. But then there were some also events that happened in the run-up to the election.
Well, DJ of Australia's a massive, massive, massive place, and I've heard it's obviously is beautiful parts of it. Sounds like a great place to go and do a wee bit of
and that allowed the AfD to really retake control of the headlines, particularly surrounding migration. So that may well have played into some of their support. Or it could just be that they did a really smart campaign. We know that young people voted very highly for them, and that the AfD used TikTok very well to push their message home. Also, Olaf Scholz insisted that he should be the face of his party's campaign, despite the fact that he's got really dismal ratings. That potentially backfired as well. We know that some of his colleagues, when the announcement of the initial results came out, described it as a bitter night. So a really difficult time here in Germany. And I think the interesting thing is that although there hasn't been a snap election called, an election is coming and will have to be called by the autumn of next year.
Me, man.
Siobhan and Adam, thank you both very much. Fascinating discussion, big day.
It'll do RT in a wee second, my man.
Waking
RT and Al Jazeera.
Big day here as well. We're going to have the Liberal Democrats launching their manifesto in London this morning.
Yep, gold bars for everybody. The gold bars are on me.
We'll find out in full in about an hour's time. But it's going to be based around an offer on health and social care. The Lib Dems are proposing a package of about £9.4 billion, which they say will fix what they call the crisis in the health and social care sector. And that's going to be made up of a whole host of smaller pledges. For example, recruiting 8,000 more GPs, giving people a guaranteed sure that they require for it, how they're pursuing their capital gains.
Claiming don't want to claim the light bulb, Pep, though.
People who get most of their income general election campaign. So what will they say on Europe?
The Lib Dems are going to fix everything
Dan, excuse me, joins me now. Thanks so much for joining me, Francois. What do you make of, let's go first of all, the European-wide results?
Right, go there in a bit. Let's see, hopefully this will be top of it. Yep.
The devastation right.
There we go, it works.
9 people are dead and 33 more wounded in a terrorist attack on a bus full of Hindu pilgrims in India. Also ahead.
The devastation right here in the area is the direct result of such an Israeli operation, which was unprecedented in the Gaza Strip.
The death toll following an IDF raid on central Gaza rises to 274, including women and children.
Staying well there to bodies where fucking dead bodies for just dead political parties.
The plane was bombing at random. They struck houses.
Between war and peace, they will.
That's the message from not only Palestinian civilians, but Israelis as well. Plus.
In Hungary today, the people have clearly expressed their desire for peace. If they have to choose between war and peace, they will choose peace.
That's the message from Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban amid the EU elections, where anti-war parties are making strong gains in Germany and France, challenging.
So the Western pro-Ukrainian press entities, the Western intelligence spokesholes, are framing it as a rise of the far right. RT are framing it as anti-war parties. Same shit, y'all. Just a wee bit different fucking colour of glitter on that chobby supper. Get it down, you.
I'm Rachel Rubel live in Moscow. You're watching
man,
RT
you should have seen
International.
the news presenter that
We
was
start
on
with
RT
news from
yesterday.
India, where 9 people were killed and 33 wounded when a bus full of pilgrims was attacked
I think I
by
only
terrorists.
watched it for 2.5
correspondent
minutes.
Ranjan Sharma tells us more.
The information is limited at this point, but what we do know for sure is that a bus which was carrying pilgrims in the Riyasi district of Jammu and Kashmir, it was shot at, the bus was fired at, and the driver basically lost control and that bus fell into a deep gorge. As we speak, rescue operations are taking place. What we do know is at least 9 people have lost their lives. 33 are severely injured, and there's a team on the ground right now, and it's a tough terrain there. They are deep into a jungle where they are basically trying to find these pilgrims. They were en route to a temple in the particular district when 2 men armed with guns fired at that particular bus. Now, what is significant here is the timing. It's also suspect. This happened Sunday evening, local time, and this happened almost parallelly
You guys telling me I've got little Englanders in the house.
ceremony was going on in the national capital. And that's when we saw this attack, which is now labelled as a terror attack by the government of India. Lots of reactions coming in. The Prime Minister, he has offered all help possible, of course. The President of the country has expressed a deep shock.
Interesting. Just after the election, obviously, Modi stuff wasn't off.
Video published by the IDF showcases a huge number of soldiers taking part in an operation to rescue 4 Hamas captives. Meanwhile, journalists in Gaza documented the many civilians killed and wounded during the incursion. Locals recount the deadly Israeli raid.
Senseless.
The plane was bombing at random. They struck houses with rockets. People's bodies were on the street.
Placed people. It's a and what you can imagine.
Placed person from Gaza City in Nusayrat.
Dangerous Dave.
Officer was killed in the rescue operation that saw a Russian national freed from Hamas. Local journalist Rami Amuhari sent us this report from Nusayrat.
A widespread devastation in the area where Israeli military was able, along with Israeli intelligence, were able to evacuate 4 of the Israeli hostages who have been here since October 7. But the devastation right here in the area is the direct result of such an Israeli operation, neighborhoods or...
It's seriously worth... I think it's worthwhile thinking about this, right? This is like, do what you want, right? But it's well worthwhile thinking about this. This isn't news. This is tugging on your heartstrings. People turning up, ambulance chasers, they need wee fucking wooden leg, glass eye cunts fucking hanging together with blue tack to film for the most fucking titillation and the most heartstrings and... This isn't news. They're just dripping fucking fear and destruction on a 24-hour basis into people's consciousnesses, typically for their propaganda purposes, whether it be RT, BBC, Press TV, the whole lot of them.
Refugee camps and the middle area outnumber
hostages. The Organization of Islamic Cooperation slammed the attack, labeling it an example of organized genocide. And the UN Special Rapporteur on Palestine also weighed in, angered by Israeli troops using a humanitarian truck for cover during their deadly raid.
Relief that 4 hostages have been released. It should not have come at the expense of at least 200 Palestinians killed, including children, and over 400 injured by Israel and allegedly foreign soldiers, while perfidiously hiding in an aid truck. This is humanitarian camouflage at another level. Israel could have freed all hostages alive and intact 8 months ago, when the first ceasefire and hostage exchange was put on the table. Yet Israel refused in order to continue to destroy Gaza and the Palestinians as a people.
RT's Middle East Bureau Chief Maria Fanoshna delves into how the IDF is trying to justify such a high number of casualties for the 4 captives rescued.
The Israeli leadership sees it as one of the country's most daring operations. Now it is called Arnon.
She's had sunglasses on in the sun, hasn't she? Donald Trump panda eyes.
Of 2 who fell securing the hostages. This is just a small extract of the many praising words the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said about this operation. Let's take a listen now.
Our heroic warriors charged as one man into the fire. They eliminated the terrorists and freed.
Oh God, man, that's just... Anyway, people are talking about football, so the Euros are just round the corner, man, and England are already eating themselves, man. It's fucking hilarious. Like, I love listening to for a bit of light relief away from the death and destruction, a bit of talk sport and stuff. Just fucking 90% Scott, because we wrote... Talk Sport is the biggest sports radio station in the world, the most viewers, and it's ran by Scots, head to toe Scottish people, man. And we're all the best for Alan Brazil, Alan McCoy's doing that wee bit of hot toddy, man, Shabeen or whatever, man. All Glasgow punters as well, or if you can call McCoy's the Glasgow punter. And they're all eating, like, I would love to fucking give support to England. No, that I would love to. I could easily do it, man. There's no problem. It's their press that makes me turn against it. Not even turn against the team, but just want them to get beat. Because the English press, they're so fickle and doom and gloom merchants and like just... They're clickbait fucking arseholes about the football, man. It's so annoying. Like, they score 1 goal, they're the best team in the world ever, we're going to win this tournament easy peasy, fucking lemon squeezy. And then, like, 1 yellow card later, like, it's a disgrace, we need to sack him, we need to do, what are we going to do, we have no idea. You're like, what the fuck? Just turn like that, motherfucking fickle fucks. And then I'm like, right, I'm out. Otherwise, like, if there was just like a fair approach by the English press towards their team, I could grin and bear it a wee bit more. But thank fuck Scotland's in this tournament. Even the English hater press. No offence taken. GG, it does my tits in. And like the Scottish, like, I would say the Scottish press are no better, but they are. We're less likely to turn on our team. It can happen. It probably will happen to a certain degree, but not to the extent where the fucking... I think it's just it's just economics. There's more money to be made down in England by being sensationalist about the English team. The English team doesn't only have the gravitas at England, it has that international gravitas as well. Whereas there's less eyes on Scotland, if you get me.
From progressing to the real
anyway, rant over, man.
Justifies the painful and
Scotland are going to win
price. That is why we are leaving the wartime cabinet. To ensure a real victory, it is fitting that in the fall of the year of the disaster, we go to elections, resulting in the establishment of a government that will win faith and overcome challenges. I'm calling on Netanyahu to agree to an election date. Do not.
Fuck's sake! Are we playing the kids' game of Snap just now? With all these, fuck it, election, Macron election, Sunak election, guy election. Everybody's calling for a snap election. I'm calling for hookers and blow. Let's see if that happens.
Our people be torn apart.
Gantz, a member of Israel's three-man war cabinet, previously accused the Israeli prime minister of mismanaging the war effort. He went so far as to accuse Netanyahu of putting his own political survival over the country's security needs. Gantz has offered a plan that, according to him, would see the release of all remaining hostages from Gaza and warned that the failure to accept the plan will result in his resignation. He also addressed Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, urging him to do the same. Peace Now activist Erev Oppenheimer says the former war cabinet minister was right to resign.
We saw all the last few months that this government is not acting according to what Benny Gantz is thinking, but according to what Bezalel Smotrich and Ben Gvir, the most extreme racist parts of the government. Benny Gantz and his party has no effect on the policy.
GG, that's one sport. In fact, I lie. Back in the day when I was really young, you know, when you could just absorb sports and stuff, I could follow it, and I think I even kind of half understood the rules to a certain extent.
We will not see a change in leadership in Israel.
I even find football boring unless I'm betting on it.
Benny Gantz doesn't have
Rangers games aren't fun unless we're 3-0 up.
There is no need to be
right?
there.
Until then, it's fucking your arseholes. You're more angry than fucking loving it, no matter if you're playing like Brazil or no. Scotland games is just like.
Restart, and we will see maybe in the next year, election.
Not so much nowadays, but you don't know what you're going to get.
Move without it, Netanyahu can be there
for. How did they get onto that? Everything's revolving around
football. Let's cross to the EU now, where opposition parties are preparing to deal a major blow to the ruling parties in Germany, France, and Austria,
listen to this, and then I'm
challenging the mainstream warmongering rhetoric in European parliamentary elections. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban says the vote presents people with a choice regarding the Ukraine conflict.
As for the message of the political content of the European Parliament elections, it can be summed up as follows: that in Hungary today the people have clearly expressed their desire for peace. If they have to choose between war and peace, they will choose peace.
Well, meanwhile,
didn't you see that on the Western press?
Are set to turn toward peace with Germany, one of Ukraine's top weapons suppliers, now among them. Voters in Germany chose the Alternative for Germany party over Chancellor Scholz's ruling Social Democratic Party. Earlier, the AfD rejected EU sanctions against Russia over the Ukraine conflict. In France, Macron's Renaissance Party got only 15%, while the National Rally got around 31%.
So the two top players
and in Austria, the Freedom Party gained
in the
25%,
EU,
beating the ruling People's Party.
both had
Charlotte Dubensky has more.
right-wing nationalistic,
we've seen people
global
nationalists towards more nationalistic policies, but I think it's fairly clear across the board that idea of anti-Russia sanctions, anti-sending weapons to Ukraine, anti-Ukraine joining the EU has been a sentiment that has been shared by many Europeans who've been voting in these elections, and we've seen, therefore, success for the parties that have campaigned on that.
Tommy
Let's
Robinson
start in
rally,
France, where we'll talk about the National Rally. This is a party that's been headed by Marine Le Pen's protégé Jordan Bardella, who has been very clear how he stands on the war in Ukraine. He has said that he doesn't want French weapons to be used to strike within Russian territory. His party taking over or around a third of the vote, which is incredible.
Ce message clair adressé
This clear message addressed to Emmanuel Macron and European leaders marks our country's determination to see the European Union change direction and move towards greater democracy, protection and consideration for the people of Europe. A wind of hope has risen in France, and it's only just begun.
So around a third of voters voting for the national rally. Despite that, there were protests outside their headquarters on Sunday night as those results were coming in. President Macron, as a result of his policies, many have said he's been warmongering over the last few months with those suggestions that French troops could be sent to Ukraine to fight against Russia, with the fact that he has greenlit the fact that French weapons can be used to strike within Russian territory. That's not resonated with the voters, and as a result, he went on TV on Sunday night and said something pretty extraordinary. He has called a snap election dissolving the National Assembly because he said he has heard the French people.
The main lesson is clear. This is not
I
a
think
good
that's the
result
kind
for
of
the parties
same
that defend
shit
Europe,
that's happening
including
in
the
the UK
presidential
in the
majority.
sense that
It
right
is
now
a
the
situation to
parliament's
which the
not
rise
there.
of nationalists and demagogues is a danger not only
And
for our
I
nation
beg the
but also
question
for
because I
Europe
don't
and for
know the
France's
answer.
place in Europe
I'm
and
pretty
the
sure
world.
there is some
I
sort
think
of
what we are seeing
apparatus.
here, it is clear
Take
that
care
the
of this,
old
but what
Europe as
happens
we
if
knew it is pretty much gone.
And let's discuss Germany, because it was a
the
difficult
gloves come
night
off
for
and the
Chancellor
war
Olaf
does.
Scholz, wasn't it?
Yeah, the worst
What
ever
is happening?
results for his
If
party,
the
the
war
Social
becomes
Democrats, taking
undeniable,
around
if you get me.
14% of the vote. And again,
And the
this
parliaments are
is a
dissolved.
person who has been staunchly in support of Ukraine.
I'm pretty sure there's obviously a
recently
mechanism
has said
in,
that, yes, German weapons can be
in place
used
both in
against
France
Russia
and
on
over
Russian
here
soil.
to
So
take care
following
of
that
it.
rhetoric
Just
that
I'm
we
not
saw from
aware
the
of
French
the
president. And again,
technicalities.
that clearly has not resonated with the voters in Germany. And his party has seen these worst ever results, absolutely humiliating. And the question now is, given that Scholz's government is in a fairly tenuous position anyway, could we see what we're seeing in France and his government collapsing in the next few weeks?
Look in the
It is
chat.
very clear to us that there cannot be a
Putin's
woman
Slayer.
or a man at the head of Europe who can be elected with the votes of right-wing populists and right-wing radicals. And we are very, very
Come,
clear on
Heather.
What's
Fuck
clear here is we saw
Russia.
a marked
I
difference
shall
result for
slay
the
Putin.
AfD, which have been a party that
Fuck
have been
Putin,
anti-war
fuck
in Ukraine,
RT.
anti-sending weapons to Ukraine, and anti-Russian sanctions. They did very well in this party. And what's interesting is Scholz is in a very difficult position
Internet's
already
a
within
toilet bowl,
his
innit?
own government, and there are suggestions that we could see a second government now collapsing in the next few weeks. So possibly these elections bringing not just down the French government, but the German government too.
But you know, it was a very contentious campaigning, resulting in actual violence against politicians in some cases.
Yes, that's right. We saw huge contentious campaigning
Milkshake.
through this. We've seen the AfD party politician candidates being attacked. One was stabbed last week. But I think the one thing that is on everybody's minds is that attempted assassination of Slovakia's Prime Minister Robert Fico just last month. This was by a pro-Ukrainian supporter who point-blank shot him 5 times.
That's all. I would argue that's all people getting brainwashed by social media.
In the last week, saying
You
that
don't
it
need
was
to
a result of the
directly
fact that
ask
he
somebody to
stood
go and
up
assassinate
against
somebody,
sending
just
weapons
wind
to
them up with
Ukraine
memes.
and stood up against the
Like
sanctions.
for Hillary Clinton, for example, as much of a fucking horrible human being, head of a crime family, all the scumbaggery that goes along with she may be. Alex Jones had people believing, or still to this day, that she's a demon. And people say the biggest trick of the devil is to convince you that he doesn't exist. The biggest trick of the devil is that he convince you that he does exist. Because if you believe in the devil, you go running towards fucking the baby Jesus and God. And the collection plate is proof in the pudding of fucking... We call it Tommy Robinson.
That message from Fico is a message
I'm pretty, I don't know, man. I would love to hear the grapevine what's happened to Danny Torbo, man. He's obviously had his fucking jaw rewired or some shit,
get a second term as Commission President. She has said these elections show a majority of Europeans want a strong Europe. Yes, they absolutely do, but perhaps not possibly in the way that she views that strong Europe. Because what is clear is that people across Europe have voted for parties that are anti-warmongering, and this really could change the shape
Far right,
of Brussels for the next 5 years.
Potato.
And while EU Chief Ursula von der Leyen claims the elections will put the bloc's unity on show, foreign policy analyst Marian Duris told us Europeans have overwhelmingly voted for parties that put their interests first.
I'm no racist, my missus has 2 black eyes.
Many media say about the rise of far right in the European countries. I would say it differently.
I love that, GG. That's a
cracker,
mate.
I would not say about far right. It's just rightist parties. Maybe we can call them
racist, but I don't circle jerk with Nigel and Tommy.
Because they are much oriented to
Danny
the
has
old
a
people.
bacon.
Majority of these parties, or these patriotic parties, are against sanctions,
DJ just
I would say.
hearing them the other night,
we see
it's crazy to hear
in
how
the Central
cult-like
and Eastern Europe,
gravitated towards that purely Christian
who
cult,
are
man.
saying something like stop
baby.
sanctions, we want
even
to
that guy,
buy cheap energies. So these
what's his
parties in
name? Adam
European
Curry, the
countries,
Podfather,
which are
as they call
rising
him.
in percentage, they are saying about, okay,
He didn't quite invent
own
the
people,
podcast,
our
but he
own
was up
country
there with the
first.
technology. Anyway, you can go and look at him.
A new chapter
Family
for
of the
BRICS
CIA.
Plus. The foreign ministers of the bloc's
Who's,
countries
watched
have
my
convened
channel,
in the Russian city of
commented on
Nizhny
my
Novgorod
videos.
for a 2-day meeting. Russia's top diplomat
He's
Sergei
even
Lavrov
now
took to the
in
stage to
the
highlight the importance of
you're
these talks
fully
with
signed up
every member,
fucking
new
onward
and
Christian
old,
soldier
represent.
stuff. Lots of people, man.
For the first time, the
And
meeting
they
of
end
the
up
heads
there
of
because
foreign
they're so
policy
terrified
departments of
by
the
people
association
convincing
is
them that
being
the
held
devil
in a new
exists.
expanded format.
Rather than just like
The expansion of
cunts
BRICS is
or
a clear
cunts.
confirmation of the process of forming a multipolar world order. There is a formation of new centers for making globally significant political decisions among the states of the global south and east, the states of the world majority. These countries advocate a more equitable way of life based on the sovereign equality of states
have a
and
nice afternoon,
civilizational
everybody.
diversity.
All right, let's get more details now.
It was a late start because I was out on my bike. So tune in tomorrow. It will be 9 o'clock start as usual. Thumbs it up, share it with your friends, family, foes, help the channel and the show grow. And tune in tomorrow for your daily fix of the daily PoliTITS. If you like politics but are sick of the tits, then get your fix of daily PoliTITS. Monday to Friday, typically. 5 to 9, typically. GG, DJ, Rose still floating about in the chat after Hasdak. Pete was in. And number 55, how you doing, my man? Luton Lion, Ian, thanks for joining everybody that has. And Faceless was in earlier as well, so have a nice afternoon, y'all. I'm going to go and have my big totty.
Clips. And remember, citizens, always subscribe. Hit the notification bell as well. And $19.95 plus shipping and handling will keep you out of hell.